Welcome to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blaine. I interview leaders, experts and business professionals from around the world who are bringing leadership principles and know-how into the digitally driven 21st century workplace, with focus firmly on the how-to rather than the what. Each episode is in aid of a charity chosen by my guests, and since 2020, we've made donations to over 80 global and local causes. Welcome to the Rethink Leadership podcast with my guests from the Asian Institute of Hospitality Management in Bangkok, otherwise known as AIHM. This is an institute founded by Minor Hotels, one of the world's fastest growing hospitality companies, in academic association with Les Roches, a global leader in hospitality education. What strikes me especially is the provision of dynamic learning experiences for students that puts the emphasis on knowledge built for sure, but more so in experiential, empowered learning to provide students with the know-how for what we do in business and how we do it, with the skill sets of most importance front and center. This is especially important for the hospitality industry, particularly as they go on to work placements and work experience. My guests are Chris Meylan, COO of AIHM, and Samantha Lorva-Marian, Director of Global Partnerships for AIHM. We discuss the importance of nurturing young talent and preparing them for the workplace as much as academic success. Chris tells us about what he's hearing from business leaders in Thailand and internationally about the talent needs, and Samantha discusses how AIHM is shaping learning methods to better build the skill sets as much as the knowledge that they build for the hospitality industry, but so relevant for any industry out. This episode is in aid of Wat Bang Nam Chon Temple School, a neighbouring school to AIHM in Bangkok, where they need support to enhance their kindergarten classroom, including things like air purifiers and other materials. Find out more from their Facebook page and get involved. Hello, Chris and Samantha. Thanks very much for joining me. Chris, I'm going to come straight to you. Please introduce yourself, AIHM, and your role in developing tomorrow's talent today.
Thank you very much. I'm Chris. I'm originally from Switzerland. I'm an ex-hotelier. Grew up as a young kid with my father being a chef and owning a restaurant. So I've always been in this hospitality field since a very young age. Studied hospitality, went to work in Asia for 5 years, 6 years. And then afterwards, decided to change my career and go to education. So education was also about hospitality. So I worked in different hotel schools in Switzerland and slowly kind of changed my route to become an educator and then leading schools and leading programs, but always in the niche of hospitality. So I'm very much hospitality and education together. I always believed in education in a fun way. So typically looking at how to look at technology, look at teaching to be engaging, motivating, and really focusing on kind of this new type of learner who wants to really kind of apply learning right away, gets bored very quickly into the classroom. So how can we use gamification? How can we use technology in order to make learning fun, engaging, and so on? Where I think education has changed a lot in the last 50, 60 years. When, for my age, I mean, if you remember our classes, we'd be sitting in a big classroom, auditorium, and listening to a professor for 2 hours and taking notes. I think today's learner is not this way anymore. We know it's not an effective way of learning anyway, but I think the today's learner are less and less patient for that type of learning. Then I actually was working in Switzerland for EHL. And then from there, Minor called me. This institution was just open for 2 years and they needed someone to look after the leadership. So I've been joining AIHM now for 3 years and moving forward to having a small institute with 30 students. Now today is the first day of the induction of the new cohort and now we've reached a total of 250 students. So up and high we go, and it goes with our motto, which is always aim high. So trying to really become one of the very first institutions in hospitality education management in Asia and the bigger region.
It's such an impressive institution, having been there a couple of times now. And we'll get into that pedagogical approach, how you're shaping learning methodology. And I think it's, we know it's still sad that many higher education institutions still do these 1 hour, 2 hour lectures that you're talking about. But I do want to go back a couple of steps. You know, you glossed over, I'm a chef, I'm a restaurateur, and so on. So, key question: what is your
Yep.
specialty dish, Chris, that you like chefing?
Oh, I'm actually not a chef. My father was a chef, and I didn't go into kitchen at all. My father actually kind of pushed me away from it, and I was myself. I don't know. I don't want to become a chef. I've gone more into the route of F&B service and the service style and the bartending. So if I would have a drink, I would go for caipirinha. That would be my favorite drink. You know, it's fresh, it's lemony, it's a bit of sour and sweet at the same time. It's not too high in alcohol in the first time, and it's the good way to start a good party.
Absolutely, a Brazilian special, right? Thanks very much for that, Chris. Samantha, turning to you, please introduce yourself, your role, and your 15-year journey at AIM so far.
So thank you so much for having us, Jeremy. It's amazing to be able to have this conversation together and to share the story about AIM. So I am a hospitality management graduate myself as well. So I went to Temple University's School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management, where I graduated from 15 years ago. So when I joined Minor, I came as an intern. So our students are having a similar experience. They have to do 2 internships that might be here in Thailand, or it might take them abroad, like I chose to do. And it really, from my experience, opens worldviews, and they come back stronger and more understanding and more empathetic about the world around them. And they have their own leadership style that they're building along the way. And that mirrors my journey. So I've been with Minor since we had 15 hotels. Now we have over 500, going on to 1,000 in the next few years. So to be a part of this growth and trajectory has been incredible. So the biggest thing that I always say to students who are considering, a path like this is, if you love people, you love business, and want to intertwine the two, hospitality management is the perfect career choice, and it can take you around the world and to meet the most interesting people.
Yeah, well, and from my own small experience, I concur with that exactly. But what huge growth, 15 to 500 to 1,000, and the amount of jobs that that's creating, an amount of excitement for young talent coming through who are hearing this for the first time. It must really kind of get into their DNA around this, Samantha.
Definitely. And they know that the limits of their dreams are only limited by their own understanding of what is available now, and they're creating potentially future roles that don't exist. So my role is Director of Global Partnerships, and this brings in my unique strengths of being able to communicate, being a person who's lived in Asia for the last decade. I know a lot of people, and I love bringing people together, especially across industries, generations, and cultures. So that's part of the mission, is to bring people together in collaboration for events and for training experiences, and really to see that we're all so similar. We just go and find our path in different ways, and we want to give that motivation to our students as well.
Well, we're going to get into that a little bit more. So, Samantha, I'm going to stay with you, and I want to touch on something that Chris started with as well. So, tell me a little bit more about how AIM's learning methodology and delivery is different from other higher education establishments, and why that is so important for the talent coming through your doors.
So thanks for that great question. So it actually starts with our location. So we are the only hotel school in the world that's located in an actual hotel. So our immersive learning location and our campus in the Avani Plus Riverside Hotel is also right next to the Anantara Bangkok Riverside Hotel. And this proximity allows our students and young professionals, which we call them, to work alongside industry experts and to serve guests in a real hotel environment, learning and applying what they are experiencing in class from day one. A big part of what we do is also to encourage our students to ask questions. So from the induction that started on Friday, just last week, we say to the students, questions are your best friend. If you're feeling uncomfortable, our head of student engagement, Allison, always says, when you feel uncomfortable, you put your thumbs up, because uncomfortable shows that you're growing. And to grow and to encourage people around you in order to do that is the ethos. So when students come in, they're welcomed by their senior students, by their by their peers, and they shake their hands and they show them the way around. So as much as it is an experience created and co-facilitated by our exceptional faculty from around the world, it is also very much hand in hand with our student leadership, which range from ambassadors to the student voice, to students creating their own clubs to bring people together in a variety of different ways.
Is that right? It's the only hotel school in the world based in a hotel.
Just to clarify, yes. So typically what we've decided to do with AIM is to really bring the traditional high quality Swiss education style for hospitality education and bring it here to Thailand. And that's where we have our academic association with the very famous school Les Roches. We are not a Les Roches campus, but we work together from the academic delivery, and we follow very much their own philosophy and structure. The logic, if you were to go to Switzerland and work and go as a student in one of those hotel schools, you start always with the practice. You will learn how to cook, you will learn how to serve, you will learn how to make beds, you will learn how to welcome guests and to use the computer system and what we call a property management system to manage the accounting and all of that. Because the goal is, even though in the future you might become a manager, you want to be able to understand what the chef is going through. You want to understand what the challenges that housekeeping face. And you know it because for that first 6 months, you actually learn the job and you learn really on track. And that is something that is very, very, very important. And also teach that hospitality skill, welcoming guests and smiling and talking and having the chit chat, the small talk that is also so important in the industry. So these hotel schools in Switzerland, what they do have is they have their own campus ecosystem, if you like. They have restaurants and they have bars and they have dorms, and the students look after other students. Now, in here, we don't have that experience of having a dorm and a big school, but what we have is we're the only hotel school that is directly integrated into a real 5-star hotel. So rather than our students serving other students, our students learn the practical arts directly into the 5-star hotel and actually serving real customers. So the stakes are a little bit higher, but as well they get to learn from the real industry and from the real experience. And if I might add as well, Thailand offers the best hospitality in the world. I strongly believe in that. Thai people have a strong warmth and generosity. They like to welcome people. Their smile is really contagious. They smile, they welcome you, you feel so welcome and so on. So welcoming from these people, I think can also be one of the best experiences our students can have.
Oh yeah, I can concur as a customer. I think my family would agree with you as well. From around the world, this is the place. This is the place. But it also strikes me, if I think around your industry particularly, but other industries, what a superb opportunity having an education institution which is aligned very closely with the workplace and does all of those things that you and Samantha are talking about. So, Chris, staying with you a little bit, I want to kind of look at it from the other point of view, because this then provides that opportunity for that very strong link. So, you're a leader here and globally. You discuss talent pipelines across your sector and others with other business leaders. So, what are you hearing? What are they telling you in terms of the main skill sets and attitudes they need today from young talent coming in? And what's the reality?
That's a great question. So from both sides, there is a little bit of a challenge of the change of generation, and typically what younger people want to do, want to learn, and kind of how they want to what they want to achieve in their career. I think it's been written in many research papers across, and a lot of leaders talk about that, but this change of generation between the Gen Xers who used to be wanting to work for that one company and continue all the way through, and they would have that kind of vision. Also, maybe you and I, not being that young anymore, we also got this use of if you were working for a company and you would work hard, that necessarily the promotion would come eventually and you would get that. And then also this idea of work-life balance, which at the time was not that prevalent. We were more looking, okay, you're going to work hard and eventually you're going to get your holidays, but you were not really thinking about, oh, how do I balance both and so on. So this younger generation is sometimes perceived as being lazy. Where the different people I talk about, especially the more traditional type of people, and say, oh, this young generation, they don't want to work anymore. We don't understand what they want. But we strongly don't believe that. We see young people who are highly motivated, working really hard, that students who are super committed to the institution, committed to the success of AIM, committed to the success of the young ones coming in, students coming in to organize events, and they will be staying very late to finish everything. But I think this young generation needs, and many authors have actually said the similar thing, is they need to see where they're going. And if they go to work for a company and that company doesn't really give them a path, they will feel like, oh, okay, I'm kind of stuck here. So I'm going to go somewhere else where maybe I'm going to get unstuck and I can go to the next part. So I think organizations need to be committed to learning. If an organization is there and propose learning and propose path and ways of people to grow, people, I believe, will want to continue working for that company. And hospitality offers a great options for that, because typically within hospitality in a group like Minor, again with our owning company, you can go and work for a year in a position, in a property, in a location, and then maybe you're being mobile and you're going to work somewhere else. And this is actually something that even our chairman and founder, Mr. Eineke, says he wants people to be mobile. He wants people to move around and propose all the experiences wherever they go. So I think it's a kind of a change of mindset of like, oh, you're lucky to want to work with me or for me, rather than saying to a young person, says, we are lucky to have you and we are here to work together in order to make your career a success. But of course, you will need to be able to work for that success, because we're going to be working together to make you a success and make us a success as well.
It's so enlightened that's not just an attitude, that's in the genetic makeup of AIM, from what I've experienced as well, and so important for the talent coming in. And you're busting the myths that many organizations just say, yes, they're lazy, they do this, they do that. But actually, when you start to invest in these young people, you find the motivations and you tap into that. So because just a very quick question before I come back to Samantha, Chris, to follow that up. Because things are moving so fast, and if you think of the digital world, for example, there's a great example of how things are shaping how we work, shaping your sector for sure. So how do you keep on top of evolving your learning journeys for these young people, as well as providing those experiences that you've just been talking about?
So there is one thing we're very lucky with, is hospitality is a people's industry. And meeting someone and creating an environment where you look after guests and creating an hospitable environment where people want to come back, all of that, these are people skills. So people skills have not evolved that much. A smile is still a smile, a welcome is still a welcome. So from that aspect, this is also what we teach. So that kind of human to human and relationship skill is still there. So that's something we still work on, and hopefully that won't change too much until we have computers in our brain. But I still may take a few years. So that hospitality skill is very important. We focus a lot on that. We also focus a lot on confidence. This is a cultural aspect, I believe, that is also very important in that region. Is Asian students, Asian young person tend to be less confident that their European or Western counterparts. And I believe it comes also from the higher education, from their own personal education, and from their own schooling in high school, where from a very young age, those international schools really focus on being critical and bring up your voice and so on, which in the region is not that much the case. So a lot of students tend to be a bit shy. They don't want to communicate their ideas. They're afraid to make a mistake. They always got that feeling of, oh, I don't want to disturb the teacher with my silly ideas. So changing that mindset from it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to talk in front of the teacher, it's okay to ask your point of view, all point of view are accepted and so on. That also something that takes a little bit of time. So that hospitality and confidence is something we work very much on from day one, really. And then after that, it's of course, we need to teach the knowledge of hospitality. So as I said, those practical skills that you need to have to make a bed. Simple, but it's still so important. Hygiene, so important. How to cook a right meal, how to make a good caipirinha. All of that are super important. But after that, it's also going into the marketing knowledge, your business knowledge 101, and then moving on as we go. But something that really guides us, and that is actually something I've read from an author called Ben Nelson. He opened the Minerva University, which is modern, completely rethink about universities, a very interesting model as well. And they said young people need to have 4 competencies. And those competencies are young people need to think critically, young people need to think creatively, young people need to be able to communicate effectively, and last one was they need to be able to interact effectively as well. And these are more human skills. Some people call them soft skills as well. Human skill, core competencies that everybody needs to have then to be really successful. If you are able to have those 4 plus 2, so those 6 competencies together, you go for an interview, you will rock it, you'll get the job. You will start your work, you can do that, you're going to get that promotion. And that's what I'm saying to the students as well, is you might be the smartest person in the room with the highest possible grade, but if you're not able to communicate effectively, if you're not able to come up with your ideas, you won't get that promotion. You won't get to that goal of being a GM that you really aspire to.
Couldn't agree more. And this is so inspiring for me, this conversation, being a learning professional myself and with one of the hats that I wear. It's music to my ears around how an institution like yours is really changing the games. And I'm glad you brought up those skill sets, those 4 skill sets, the critical thinking, the creativity, communication effectiveness, interactivity, and so on. Samantha, I'm going to come to you for this to dive into this a little bit further, because of course many organizations are actually moving from role-based recruitment to skills-based recruitment, exactly in line with what you just said there. And in an industry like hospitality, and especially in the hotel business, just start by telling me, what are the benefits and downsides of this when you're moving from one model to another?
So in hospitality specifically, there is a lot that has to be done. We check in guests every day. We have to turn the rooms over. We have to make sure that there are great experiences that can only happen when we're fully present in them. So this idea has been inspired by many things, but namely our students. So our students are able to do internships in different departments. And we say to them, okay, what is your ultimate goal? Say you want to be a GM or you want to be a restaurant manager. What other experience is going to help you to succeed in that role? So say you want to do sales, you should also learn a little bit about F&B. And by having students that are well versed in multiple areas will allow them to have more of a design thinking concept mindset when they're planning and when they're working together. Because we can have a great idea from a corporate or organizational perspective, but how does it translate down operationally? They need to be in those moments, helping those things to be integrated into the operations to make true change and to always have service excellence. So, when I think about our students and this, what Chris mentioned, thinking critically, creatively, communicating effectively, and interacting effectively, this is absolutely so well demonstrated in our integrated hospitality project, where our students have to work as consultants with hotels in order to bring new ideas to the forefront. So a student could have a day job, say in the front office, but have a passion for something else like photography, and they could double working together with the social media team. So those are all the benefits. What are the downsides? We're going to have to create change in order to do this. Ways of things that are being done that are great and traditional and that are effective in a hospitality ecosystem of yesterday need to be able to evolve to incorporate technology, but to incorporate the wide variety of people's interests, passions, and motivations. So I know that Gen Z specifically really wants to have work-life balance, as Chris mentioned. I like to say work-life harmony, because at times you're going to have to give more to work, And then at times you're going to have to give more to family. And these things fluctuate dependent upon what's happening in your life and what stage of life that you're in. So if hospitality is able to transform and to meet these changes in a creative way, we're going to find a really great way to better meet our guests, because we'll be more fulfilled and hopefully more relaxed in our own downtime.
If I may say something, apologies. If I may say something here, just to jump on, I think one very important aspect of hospitality, and one of the challenges, it's a very traditional industry. So the needs of the students are changing, the needs of the customers are changing, and hospitality and the leaders of hospitality in general know that things need to change. But unfortunately, people that have been there for a very long time, and the industry still works the same way when I was a student myself a long time ago. So that is also one of the challenges that we face as an organization, as a university, preparing the next generation again of leaders for the industry. But the industry knows it needs to change. But it's the challenges is we bring the new generation up, but it's also the kind of the leadership and the medium level leaderships of hotels that are still also very much thinking.
Yes, I can understand that. And it strikes me actually what you're both talking about, that you're ingraining in the students that you're working with is that very modern agile mindset about how we do this together. You talked about design thinking as one of the methodologies within that as well, but Samantha, and I think that it's so important that academic institutions across all industries start thinking about some of those learning methodologies that we might use in business that absolutely can have an impact in the academic area, but also actually give a much better grounding for our young students. So following that up, Samantha, if I might just stay with you just for this quick question as a follow-up. How do you, as AIM, mix up the academic learning needs then that are constantly evolving with preparing for business, the practical workplace experiences that you and Chris have both been talking about, that build those ongoing must-have skills that you've also touched?
Thanks for that great question. And this is truly how we're bridging the gap between generations, industries, and cultures through our AIM Employer Forum. So regularly we connect with leaders to invite them to campus to have sessions together with our students, where we use a platform called Mentimeter to get their insights, to get their ideas, to get their thoughts about their motivations, but to get a group poll about that. And then the student turns around and talks to the employer behind them. As the conversation continues, the students are shifting around the room, meeting new people, and having one-on-one conversations. Because as Chris mentioned, it's really important to be able to create these, these relationships with people as we're navigating this people industry. And so students can be quite nervous, young professionals, are quite nervous sometimes to have that first conversation. So when we're putting them in these environments where, yes, they're on campus, but they're with people that are new, that they've never met before, we're able to take the pulse on what they're looking for in real time, together with the leaders who are present, trying to offer them a next step in their career. So these are evolving in real time together with our students. So we have our next career fair and employer forum coming up on the 4th of December of 2025. So we'll be inviting students from other universities as well to join us. And so that we can truly continue to bridge the gap also across mindsets and thinking and approaches to learning, because learning doesn't just happen in the classroom. Learning happens in interaction with other people, and people who think like us, and also people who don't. That's really important to widen your breadth of awareness to include all perspectives as we create this changing world together.
This is so important, what you both saying, and it's music to my ears, I have to say. So Chris, coming back to you, I want to go deeper into those 4 must-have skill sets that you talked about for the workplace. You talked about critical thinking, creativity, communication effectiveness, and that kind of interpersonal or collaborative effectiveness. So if I were to ask you for one element in each of those which really makes a difference as a skill set, what would that be?
Yeah, you said we mentioned them already. I think these are really, really important. So confidence, it's really being focusing on just being confident on who you are, confident on what you have to say, being able to communicate confidence. I think is also very, very important. You know, like knowing your verbal and non-verbal communications, the way you stand, the way your posture is, your eye contact, your smile, your handshaking. We actually focus on that with our students. We shake hands with them and make sure that we teach them how to shake the hand right, not too hard, not too soft. That is also something very important. It really communicates it. Try not to have your hands sweaty when you do that for the first time. Things like that. Then creative thinking is really thinking about really questioning anything that you do. Is there a better way to do what I'm doing right now? Whether it is a process, whether it is looking at technology, and both from a teacher perspective or a student's perspective, or a person or a professional. How do I want to do a presentation? Do I need to present the way I've always presented? Or could you use AI to develop this, for instance? Or how could I research more effectively? I mean, every day I'm learning new tools and looking at it. And that's really my mindset is like, okay, how can I be more productive? How can I be more effective? How can I be more creative? How can I be more interesting by asking questions or looking at tools and technology, all of that. And that's really kind of always what drives me all the time is like, I'm bored with routine. So I'm always trying to find better way. And that's how, that's how we talk about creative thinking, not necessarily thinking about being an artist, because I'm definitely not an artist, but more thinking about a way of doing things differently, and rethinking everything. And then the interaction is it's the same thing is learning to interact and managing your emotions. I think it's also an important aspect of that. And we teach that with emotional intelligence in our executive education classes as well. But sometimes challenges happen, issues happen, people are in a different mood, they face different problems at different moment in time. But if you let your emotions drive you, then you're going to make wrong decisions. You're going to communicate things you will regret later, and then it can create conflict for no point really. So I think being able to read people's emotions, that's part of emotional intelligence, but also being able to be understand your own emotions as well, and then saying, okay, that's not the right moment for me to say something, or take a step back, or making a decision that we can come to it later. I think is also a very important skill to have. And this is something that I think you develop along your life as well, as you go along. But typically, we've seen organizations sometimes the great people work together, but because they don't recognize as other people's strengths. And I know that Samantha is one of her biggest passion as well, how to work with passions and strength of people, but also understand how to communicate together effectively and not focus on people's weaknesses, but strength can also help that kind of interactive, effectively part too.
Excellent advice for perhaps the younger talent that is tuning in, either in the workplace or outside it. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. And staying with that talent, because of course you can do so much, but talent coming to you has to show up, and they have to get involved. So Samantha, coming back to you, we talked about this when we met the last time. You're a millennial, you're closest to the Gen Z intakes that are coming at the moment. So knowing what you know now, if if a younger Generation Z version of Samantha were walking through AIM's doors now, what advice would your older self give you to embrace that opportunity, really get stuck in, and also ask the questions that you don't know?
Mm. Thank you so much for that question. So, what would I say to my younger self to encourage her on the same path that I'm on now? Every mistake that I've made has shaped me into the person that I am. So, what I'd say to anyone, whether it's younger me or other students, is that mistakes are the path. It's not to avoid them. It's not to try to fix them. It's about learning from them. And one of the things we always say at Minor is, take action, fail quickly, and move on. Don't spend too long looking at the mistake. And that is so empowering, because no matter what decision you take, whether it's the correct decision or not correct decision, you can always make a new and different decision. Every day is your chance to design it the way that you wish to. So what I'm seeing now in young people is that, to what Chris said, we need to help them to increase their confidence. And increasing their confidence comes with building your comfort zone and widening it slowly. So I always have my yellow Post-it with me. And I always encourage the students, if you've got a question, if you've got something you want to say and you feel too nervous to say it, write it down first. And then when it comes to your turn, simply pick it up and read it. And while there is so much opportunity to make things look polished and picture perfect on social media, life doesn't give us a do-over. And you need to know that that's okay, and that that's what people connect to and resonate with is your authenticity, and especially in hospitality. It's not about never doing something that would upset the guests. It's about understanding that you have taken the action to fix it, and actually you have a more loyal guest after that. So if you can turn that same idea onto yourself, that if you make a mistake, you accept it, you move on, you're stronger as a person and your relationship to yourself.
Yeah, and that willingness to experiment and fail a bit, learn from mistakes, that's all about that growth that you were talking about before as well. And so I'm gonna flip it round again, and I'm gonna bring Chris back in, because it's the duty of care of institutions like yours, which you exemplify this, to engage students, to personalize the learning in the ways that you can, and double down on a couple of these things like that. So Chris, I would pose this question to you about the key pieces of advice that you would give other academic institutional leaders and bodies like AIM in engaging young talent in learning, the work experience that they can gather, and being ready to enter the workplace.
That's a great question. We have a big advantage as AIM because we're still quite a small institution, and we have a relatively small team, and we all believe in our mission, which is, again, how do we prepare the next generation of leaders from the region to become the leaders of hospitality for tomorrow. And I think that an institution, first of all, needs to have a mission clear in order of what they want to achieve, and then have everybody within the team to believe in that particular mission. We saying all the time that we are a very student-centric environment, so it's all about the student success and the student growth and the students' opportunities. We strongly believe in that as well. I mean, if I were to listen to my dean, when my dean makes the big announcement to the new students this weekend, he kind of talked to all the students and said, "Who is the most important person in the room?" And then he says, "It's not me, it's not Chris, it's not Samantha, it's you. You are the most important person." So in that belief that we're really focusing on students growth, on the students' mission. And that's the step number one, I believe. This is something we teach in strategy, we teach that in entrepreneurship, but I still believe it's still really, really important. That guiding light that really shows everyone of what they want to do. The second piece of advice for me is embrace technology. Embrace technology, even though if it might be uncomfortable and it might focus you to kind of re-question everything, looking at the way you do your job as a teacher, as an institution, as you look at the skills. I used to do a lot of teacher training before I joined AIM. And then when I was doing my teacher training, and as an introduction, I would always ask like a devil's advocate question. And I was saying, the way technology is going, and that was before AI even, but that was the way technology is going, and you look at YouTube, I believe that in 10 years, we don't need teachers anymore. And these are all teachers to be. So they all like, "Oh, no, no, no." And then they all want to answer, and no, of course not, and so on. And my way of what I'm trying to say with that question is that today technology is so much there, knowledge is so much freely available today, even more than yesterday, that the role of a teacher has moved up from being the wise man or the wise woman on the stage that you would listen diligently in, because that person would have the knowledge, to become much more the guide on the side, the person that's going to guide the students and going to guide with the knowledge. The teacher's role or the lecturer's role or professor's role become more the person who's going to kind of guide you towards building the course and giving you the skills and giving you the scaffolding knowledge that builds up for you to be able to demonstrate acquisition of that skill. So that is the role, embracing technology in a way that learn. It's not so much anymore about teaching, but it's really focusing much more on learning. How do I make people learn? How do I make people acquire skills? How do I help people demonstrate that they've acquired that skill? So that is the second advice. And the third advice that I would have is that also looking at developing the other skills as well. So not just focusing my job finishes when my students are graduated and then off they go and they fly on their own, but focusing on as well, how can we support the students as they develop? And that's where kind of future-proofing is a way of saying it, but also kind of how can we help them develop? So, okay, you go work a few years and you come back and you maybe develop a few skills. And we have that in mind of really focusing on the alumni and then having all alumni all there, following up with their career, and then also helping them with further education, further upskilling as they go up. And then kind of like the university becomes really kind of embedded in their life. A very important stage of their life, but how they can also develop further.
Some great points there around, we talk about in business customer centricity and student centricity. Why shouldn't it be exactly like that? Embrace that technology as well so that the learning can become different, more facilitative, as you're talking about, more guided. And what I'm getting in between that also, and I'm starting to see the shift from knowledge-based imparting of learning to more skills-based. So it really is actually challenging the academic institutions and those tutors who really need to start looking at the skill sets there and keep developing them as you see that growth coming. I think it's a really, really important point. So great advice for other institutional leaders and bodies. And Samantha, coming back to you, we've talked a lot about these really important skill sets for those graduating and those entering the workplace. So if I consider your graduates specifically, out of what we've talked about, what are those skill sets that you would advise them to double down on as they embed themselves into the workplace and the workforce that will set them apart from others?
So the first would be communication and impact. So being able and confident to communicate your ideas, but also measuring how the ideas that you're sharing and that you are taking action on are impacting those around you and how they're impacting your life. So as you're taking these steps in your career, is this getting you closer or farther or away from your ultimate goal? And we have seen time and time again that the more that you're communicating about your goals and the more that you're sharing this with your peers, both in a university setting or in a workplace, the more you'll have opportunities to do those things. I myself, the reason I'm in this space now in AIM is because I took an active interest in supporting minors' learning and development and people and culture teams, because it was my passion to help people to get closer to their strengths and closer to their dreams, whatever they might be. So the first one is definitely communication and impact. The second is relationship building and networking. Now, I've been in Asia for 15 years, and in other countries, maybe you can go shake a hand and have a really quick exchange that will result in something that will translate into business. But in Asia, you have to take your time and you have to really genuinely get to know people, because oftentimes the greatest insights aren't going to appear right away. And by actively building your network, not just within your own community of hospitality or of business, but looking outside of that to technology and to those making waves in the world of government or in other maybe seemingly not directly connected industries, but actually, if we're all collaborating, working together, building strong relationships and networking well, you never know who you're going to meet. Like you and I met at Poe's Breakfast Club networking event in the morning. You know, if had I not attended that, we never would have met and this conversation wouldn't be possible. So build relationships and network intentionally, but also give back as much as you can. And the third is just to work on things like interviewing skills and to be able to connect with people who are beyond where you are now as mentors, as future employers, and to do so very intentionally, and to not be afraid to ask questions, and to be ready to say, here's what I can offer. I know I need to develop this, but this area is my unique strength. And here's how I see that I can make an impact on your organization through the way that I work uniquely.
4 great pieces of advice: communication impact, relationship and networking, intentional networking, interview skills. Think I really like that, and looking for those mentors as well. So those communication skills really come into it, the ability to ask questions, the ability to really deeply listen, and bringing in something Chris said before around that emotional intelligence evolution is really important in that too. Great stuff. Well, sadly, we have come to the end of this conversation. Honestly, I could listen to you both talk about this all day. It's so enlightened and so refreshing. And I'm sure that those tuning in are feeling the same. So, Chris, how do people find out more about AIM, and how do they connect with you to keep the conversation going?
So I think one first place I would recommend people to go is on our blog. So on our website, we have a blog called Aim Higher, which meets our motto. And then this is a place where we exchange all different things that we're doing. So what's happening at AIM, about new students coming in. We have student success stories. We talk about our alumni students. We talk about our students who transferred to Switzerland. We talk about where they've been on internship. We interview all our teachers. So everyone can understand who the faculty is and what's their background and what they're doing. And then we also do publish some form of kind of informal research or what the faculty is thinking about. I sometimes write about things that I strongly believe in. We talked about AI in education. That's something I talked about. Flip learning, also something else I believe strongly in. We've talked about that as well. So it's, I think, one of the first places to kind of gauge who we are and what we do. Then if you want to know a little bit more about us, so for example, typically I always joke with the prospective students. I say, if you want to show to your parents what we are, go on Facebook. And then that Facebook is for your parents. So this is where we talk about kind of more like a bit of a newsroom of what's happening and what's the student's life and who is visiting and so on. A bit more serious. And then on Instagram, this is more for the students. So again, these are Gen Z. They want to have some fun. So this is actually created and managed by our students directly. So when we sometimes go on it and we look at the content, I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. That's what they like to see. So it's managed by our students to showcase much more of the students' life and the fun that they have and the study type that they have as well. And then, that's the best way to connect. And otherwise, I'm also on LinkedIn. I am not as active as Samantha, but anybody, if they want to chat with me, I'd be happy to.
So thank you very much for that, Chris. Samantha, so how do people connect with you?
So the best place to connect with me is through LinkedIn. I'm posting almost every day about things that we're doing at AIM to connect generations, industries, and cultures. I love to share about the student experience, and just to give a peek inside what we're doing. So we have our main AIM LinkedIn. We also have a page for AIM Executive Education for those that are looking to upskill and to build their confidence within their organization. It's a great place to go to connect. And fun fact about LinkedIn, only 5% of people are posting regularly on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a space to grow your personal brand and to have a bigger impact, I would suggest that those listening look to create a LinkedIn profile and to share whatever that they're going through, whatever they're learning, because we need more authentic voices sharing regularly on that space.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And on behalf of my audience and myself, a huge thank you, Chris and Samantha, for joining me. Amazing.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rethink Leadership podcast with me, Jeremy Blaine. Please like, comment and support us on your favourite platform, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch as well as listen to each episode.